It's that jumpin', yeah. It's that jumpin', start like 23. It's that jumpin', 2-4 like Kobe. It's that jumpin', shoot my shot, then beat. It's that jumpin', right around smoking my trees. It's that jumpin', start like 23. It's that jumpin', 2-4 like Kobe. It's that jumpin', shoot my shot, then beat. It's that jumpin', right around smoking my trees. I be ballin' in music like Kobe. I'm the greatest to ever do it, they don't know it.
What's up, everybody? Good evening and welcome in to a very special episode of Turtles Take right here on the Undefeated Sports Network. As always, I'm your guy, Andrew Tarbill. To my left is our guy, Vince Turtle Mucci. It's been a while since we've got to grace the airwaves together. So how you doing tonight, Vince?
Man, I'm good. It's good to be back. Definitely good to be back.
Yeah, it's been a little while, so glad we get the opportunity to talk some Bears with you guys tonight. We will be joined around 7:30 by Lester Wiltfong Jr. of Windy City Gridiron. He will be joining us to talk all things Bears as we hype up this season, man. I'm getting real excited, and we haven't had a chance really to talk about this, Vince, but it's week after week. I see so much trending in the right direction that I'm letting the fan side of me take over a little bit, and I'm thinking this team could be a 9-10 win team easily this season. Now, obviously, the fan in me is probably giving them about 3 of those wins, but I have not gotten to hear your perspective on this, so I want to know what you're thinking as far as wins and losses go for this Bears team this season, and what's your biggest key to victory, really?
Yeah, I think the controlling the football is going to be key, whether it's, on offense or on defense. They got to win at the line of scrimmage, control the time of clock, and they're not going to be a team, I don't think they are, that's going to shoot out it with anybody. So they've got to play good football. They've got to play smart football, not make mistakes, and not cost themselves, On third down, they got to get off the field when they're on defense. They can't have those penalties that we've seen before from Bears, many Bears teams, where they just continuously give teams an extra set of downs because of stupid penalties,
punching people in the helmet.
Right, just those stupid things. You can't turn the ball over when you're on offense. You gotta, you gotta make every possession count when you're not as good as everybody else is. You can't be giving them away. So we'll see if they're able to do that, and really how many games they're able to win. We think they're wholesalely better than they were last year, at least on paper.
Right.
Not to be what they look like when they get on the field.
And you said that so well. That's what it always transpires to, right? You can look so great on paper. This team last year on paper looked like they had some very winnable matchups, and obviously we saw the record and the way it transpired, although that wasn't for the lack of Justin Fields playing. I've said it till I'm blue in the face. All these Justin Fields critics would not be talking had the Bears won those 6 games that they led the league in scoring in. There was a 6-week period last season. The Bears lead the league in scoring and don't win a game. That's got to be an NFL record. I don't think that's ever happened before in the history of the NFL.
It's just so Chicago Bears to even have a stat like that, where you lead the league in scoring and yet you didn't win a game for those out of those 6 games.
Right. So it wasn't for lack of offense. The defense couldn't stop a cold last year. Obviously,
right.
We'll get into that a little bit later in the show and our thoughts on this defense and how that unit is trending. There is one player that I'm really excited about on the defensive side of the ball thus far, though, and it might not be who you think. I think Jack Sanborn's going to come out with a vengeance.
That's such that's such a you pick.
No, obviously the acquisition of Edmonds there at linebacker, I'm really excited about that guy. I think he's going to play some explosive football, and you look at the stats and, really you got 2 players that are similar in a lot of ways to Roquan Smith for less than what he ended up getting from the Ravens, right? So
right.
I'm really excited to see what our linebacking core looks like as a whole. Obviously, Sanborn's going to be the number 3 option there, the jackhammer. I know Tom Thayer, for some reason, gets real hyped about Jack Sanborn. I think he's a good solid depth piece, but he's obviously never going to be a major impact player in this league.
I mean, he's a hard-nosed, sure tackling type linebacker. He reminds me of kind of like a Bobby Wagner from Seattle.
Right.
You seem a very sure tackler. Hopefully he can keep progressing and keep getting better and kind of take advantage of playing with better players around him, and just kind of have to be in the right spot at the right time.
Well, and it kind of makes me question how the coaching staff feels about Sanborn with them obviously in the draft getting Sewell, because he's going to pretty much be the competition for that third linebacker slot.
Right.
So only time will tell if there's some competition throughout camp and, into the start of the season. But that's a unit I'm really excited for. And then we haven't really got to talk too much offensively about Justin Fields and how he's been performing thus far through mini camp, start of training camp. As the media was allowed to flock to the practices, if you will, it was brought up, I believe, by Adam Hogue that Justin Fields was not looking the greatest one particular practice day when he was not throwing to DJ Moore, which obviously Chase Claypool and Darnell Mooney being sidelined. You've got Tyler Scott, but beyond that, you've got a bunch of depth pieces, right? So I can understand the timing being a little bit off with those guys that are your 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th options, and it's still early, right? But it is a little bit concerning to hear the media say that. And, obviously there's going to be so much pressure and so much scrutiny on Fields this season. Obviously you look at kind of the way he's developed as a player over the last 2 years, and one would think that he's trending in the right direction. At least I would consider him to be trending in the right direction. Obviously we want to see more out of the passing game and, quicker releases, not holding onto the ball, reading defenses at the second level a little bit quicker. But overall, I think Fields is definitely moving in the right direction. And if he's not, if Fields has a horrible season and we realize for some reason that he's not the guy, which I do not think is going to happen, you can always turn around and go out and pair your number 1 or your first round pick with the Carolina first round pick that you received for the trade this year and move up and get your selection at quarterback. And one would think that that's a lot more valuable this coming season with a much more deep draft class at the quarterback position.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially when you got a guy like Caleb Williams coming out from USC that everybody has already pretty much decided he's the best quarterback coming out.
They're drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Justin Fields is going to look good. He's going to look bad. Like, he's going to have both those things. The reason you go out and get a DJ Moore is to make the mistakes that Fields makes him not so bad, because you've got a number one that can go get the ball. DJ Moore, you got Darnell Mooney that stretches the field, but DJ Moore, he doesn't just stretch the field, he creates separation. And that's something that these other Bears receivers don't necessarily do very well. So, you're going to give DJ Moore somebody that you're paying him to be the guy that when everything falls off and a play gets blown up, that Justin could just throw the ball to DJ Moore and let him go make a play. The ball doesn't have to be right on the money. The ball doesn't have to be right on time. DJ Moore is there and being paid to make those mistakes not exist.
Well, and he's going to go up for that 50-50 ball and, more often than not probably win that contest. I think it's interesting for most Bears fans that if DJ Moore had, spent his first 5 seasons in Chicago, he would be the leading receiver for the Bears all time.
Yeah, I mean, the Bears haven't had a history of playmakers at wide receiver. Obviously we've had a few that have had a few good seasons, but we've never had them from the jump where they've spent their whole career with the Bears. But DJ Moore, I mean, he's got everything that you want, that you needed out of that number 1 receiver spot. Everything that you were hoping Darnell Mooney would go B. DJ Moore already is, and has shown that he can do it with bad quarterback play. He other than a little bit here and there, he really hasn't had good quarterback play most of his career.
Right.
But he still has shown a way to produce, and that's what you're really looking for. You're looking for a guy that no matter what, he's going to go out and he's going to produce for you, regardless of what your quarterback does. Then, as your young quarterback gets better, he's going to help elevate Justin to an even higher level than he would if he wasn't there or in the offense. Plus, he's going to open up everything for everybody else too. They've added quite a bit to this Bears team. It's not going to look like what it looked like at all last year. You're going to have DJ Moore as your number one, which then moves Darnell Mooney back to the number two, where I've said on this show many times, it's where he belongs. He's not a number one. So now you've got a bona fide number one receiver. You've got a good number two in Darnell Mooney. And then whether that's Chase Claypool or whatever it turns out to be at 3, you've got some weapons. You've got the tight ends with Tunyon they added to the mix with Cole Kmet. That's a legitimate target. It's a guy that can block, and he can go out and get you some catches too, and he gets you the tough catches. Cole Kmet's going to separate on the field and use his athleticism and get open, where Tunyon, he's just going to go out and he's going to get you those tough 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 5 catches. So
he's going to box a guy out in the end zone. Reminds me a lot of Jimmy Graham when he was I don't want to say a better player, but when he was closer to his prime.
Right. No, I mean, so, they've done a good job. They've given Justin some weapons. Not only did they give him some weapons, but they went out and they got some protection for him too. We're gonna see what this line can do, and we'll obviously talk about that later, but we'll see what this line can do. And if they can give him some time to stay in the pocket, Justin's a guy that he's one of, if not the best, obviously Lamar Jackson, some of these other guys, but he's definitely one of the best running quarterbacks this game has seen, and a huge weapon when he does it. But he's a guy that actually wants to stay in the pocket and throw the football. He doesn't want to run. He runs when he has to rather than doing it to try to set up other things. So,
and that's
time can give him time.
That's always the argument that kills me, right? Is all these guys that on Facebook, whatever social media, comment and say that Justin Fields is a running back, he's not a quarterback, blah, blah, blah. It's a lazy, tired narrative, in my opinion. But ultimately, all these guys that have that mentality or that narrative and think Fields is going to fail, what they fail to realize is that at Ohio State, he didn't run the ball.
Right.
He didn't have to run the ball. He sat in the pocket and threw touchdown passes, deep touchdown passes.
Long touchdowns.
Relentless accuracy. So, I mean, obviously, the offensive line did Justin Fields no favors last year. I think we can all agree on that. So, if this offensive line is improved, which obviously it's going to be better when you go out and spend your first-round pick on an offensive tackle, which is exactly what you needed to do. And now you've gone out and got a true piece of protection for Fields. The way the line's shifted, I have confidence that this offensive line will look better in 2023. And I'm excited as a fan, man. It's hard to contain that. And, looking at where we're at, I think that this team's definitely got a chance to be very competitive. We'll just have to see how it transpires. But with that, it looks like we have our guest in the green room. So let's go ahead and bring him in. We've got Lester Wiltfong joining us this evening, everybody. What's up, Lester? It's been a little while, man. How you
What's
doing?
up, guys? How y'all doing?
Good, man. How you doing?
Well,
Doing good, man. It's the off season, but man, it's there's always something popping with the Bears, man. There's always some news going on, always something to do, and so that's cool. That's cool. That's what the NFL wants, man. They want us talking football all year round.
Oh, absolutely. We want to go ahead and get right into our first topic here with you, Lester. We're actually waiting for you to join us to discuss this. We've got the question of the duo of Justin Fields and DJ Moore. How good can this duo be? And kind of what's your expectation, what's your floor, and what's your ceiling here?
Yeah, I mean, I think they got a chance to be one of the better combos in the league. I mean, DJ Moore's a legit number one. I mean, he put up some great numbers in Carolina with some really bad quarterbacks. So I know there's a group of fans that still think Justin Fields has struggles with the passer. Okay, that's fine. He's going to take a step. DJ Moore did some great stuff with really bad passes in Carolina. So I'm expecting him to make a jump. I'm not sure if it'll be as big of a jump as we saw with Hurts and with the guy they got over there in Philly. Or maybe not as big as the one with Josh Allen and with Diggs, but it's a legit number one. It's a year two of the offense. So I think Fields can push for, and again, this is a low bar, but I think Fields can push for the Bears all-time passing record this season.
Maybe we'll hit that elusive 4,000 yard mark that the Bears have never managed to hit.
Yeah.
Do both of you know who the Bears' all-time leading passer is?
That's Kramer.
All-time leading passer. It's got to be who? Sid Luckman
per season. Oh yeah.
All-time would be Sid Luckman. For a season, I believe, is Shane Matthews.
For a season, it's Eric Kramer.
Is it Kramer?
Yeah, 38 is his yard total, and 29 is his touchdown total.
Okay, I stand corrected.
That's great knowledge right there.
Either way, it's not like Fields couldn't go out and easily take that record if things go well for him this season. Just looking at the offense as a whole, I guess, Lester, what do you see as the brightest spot on this offense right now? Is it the running game?
Yeah, I mean, it's still got to be the run game. They led the league last year, in rushing. Obviously, a lot of that was Justin Fields, went over 1,000 yards as a quarterback. I can't see them calling as many designed runs this season. For one, it's just not something you want to do with your quarterback, your franchise quarterback, put him in harm's way. He's going to get his out scrambles. I mean, if you look at most of his really electrifying runs he had a season ago, they weren't on design runs, they were on scrambles. So let him get his on scrambles. And, losing David Montgomery is going to hurt a little bit. But you know what? With Deonta Foreman, I think he can more than fill up the gap as far as the running game goes. Khalil Herbert, he's very explosive as a runner. Roshan Johnson should be in the mix as well as a rookie. So I think they're not going to miss a beat in the running game at all. Khalil Herbert, his big problem the last couple of years, has been the passing game. He's not a very good pass blocker. He's not the best out of the backfield. But he's talked about it. He talked about it this offseason, how he's been working on his pass pro, working on his catch on the backfield. So, he may never be a 40-50 catch guy, but I think you're going to see him be a little better in that aspect of his game.
Yeah, I really like Roshan Johnson. I think he was a great pick for them. If you take him and put him, or let me rephrase it, if you take Bijan Robinson off that team, I mean, he's a dominant player. He just happened to play behind the best running back in the nation for the last couple of years. But I think he's a perfect fit for the Bears. He does what Khalil Herbert doesn't do. So I think he gives them a little bit more of that. He catches the ball well out of the backfield. He makes people miss. He runs over people. He does a lot of that. Keeps his balance and the leverage when guys try to, hit him right at the line. So we've seen Khalil Herbert struggle with that. Not only catching the ball, but making that first guy miss. And then obviously adding Deonta Foreman. Foreman, nobody really saw much out of him last year because of where he played. But, I mean, he had a really, really good year. And there were games that they struggled to, move the ball at all. But other than that, I mean, he also had games where he completely took the game over. So now you put him on a much better offense with a much better team. I think you see more of that. They're definitely not going to be lacking at running back for sure.
No, Deonta Foreman was a savior for me a couple weeks in fantasy football last year. He actually put up some big points. So,
if anyone played fantasy, they know Foreman because he carried so many teams in the last half of the season. See? I mean, he had a great second half. I think he had like close to 900 yards in his last 10 games.
Yeah.
So he doesn't catch the ball out of the backfield much, but he said that's just something he has not been asked to do. When he was at Texas, he was a good pass blocker. That just hasn't translated much because the teams he's been on, they haven't asked him to play much on third down. So, maybe we'll see the best of Foreman this season with the Bears.
That would be nice for a change because it seems like the players that we typically go after in free agency are more towards the tail end of their careers. And we get a couple okay seasons out of them, and then we move on. So maybe we're starting a new trend. Maybe Ryan Poles here is going to right that ship in that sense. Moving on, continuing with the offense. Obviously, the Bears have made some upgrades on the offensive line since we last talked, Lester, namely spending that first-round pick on none other than the best offensive tackle in the draft. I don't want to go that far, but obviously, big acquisition there with Wright. And as much as I wanted to see the Bears draft Bijan Robinson, I'm glad they didn't. I'm glad they made the smart pick and solidified that offensive line a little bit for Justin Fields. With the current 5 that are projected to be the starters, what are your expectations for the offensive line, and do you see kind of an immediate cohesiveness between the unit that really lacked all of last year, other than maybe the last 4 to 5 games?
Yeah, I think that's going to be key if these guys can stay healthy. I know they're counting on Cody Whitehair to man the center spots, and he has had some injuries the last couple of years that kind of held him out of a few games. So I think if Whitehair can hold it down, I think he's going to be fine at center. You talked about, the way they made some upgrades with Wright at right tackle. Nate Davis at right guard, moving over Tevin Jenkins to the left side now. So they have to get used to each other, but they've had the same group now the whole offseason already. So they've had them all in there. Yeah, they have had Nate Davis missing, but that's his thing from what I understand. That's how he was in Tennessee. He always shows up late to camp. That's his time. It's voluntary. So, hey, he chooses to stay away. But, he's in shape. He's ready to go. He has his head in his playbook. He knows what he's doing. And then now they'll have all training camp. And this is the 5, man. And these guys should be pretty good. They were a pretty good unit last year run blocking. They made some upgrades. Braxton Jones should take a step. I like what I saw out of him as a rookie. Obviously, he knows what he had to work on. It was that anchor. It was the bull rush.
Right.
He's talked about he's very self-aware as a football player. He's worked on his strength, worked on his core strength, worked on his technique. So I'm expecting a nice year from Braxton Jones as well. So I think this unit could be really surprising to a lot of fans. Just assume they're going to be bad because the Bears have been bad the last few years, and I know why. But this is a good group. It's a veteran group for the most part, except for Wright, and I think they're going to be fine.
Yeah, I like that. I think it'll be good for Braxton that they're going to bring in Darnell Wright, put him at right tackle. You heard a lot of different things. Skoronsky, some of these different guys, Paris Miller, these guys that they should come in and they should take over left tackle. They should move Braxton over to right tackle and this and that. And I think now he can just, like Lester said, he's focused on what he needs to do to get better. And now he can do that knowing that he is the starting left tackle. He didn't have to look over his shoulder like, oh, I got moved to right tackle. I got to learn the right side. Like, he's going to stay there. He's going to take over. He's going to get Tevin Jenkins next to him, who's a big, nasty dude. Hopefully he, that little combination of the nastiness of Tevin Jenkins and everything else that Braxton brings to it on that left side can kind of hold it down. And like Lester said, the big thing is it's the same 5. They've had, even without Nate Davis there, you've had the same 5 there. They're going to be able to gel faster because who the 5 are. For so many years, we've watched these Bears teams. We're like, well, depends who the 5 are. It depends which 5 are going to start. Which 5 are going to start this game. They're going to be able to start every game together, and they're going to all get better at the same time, where they haven't had that for a really long time. So, we talked about a little bit before Lester hopped on. You've got a kid in Justin Fields who's a great runner, but he wants to throw the ball. He wants to stay in there. He wants to hit his receivers. You've now got a receiver in DJ Moore who not only can stretch the field, but gets that separation downfield as well, and now has a legitimate quarterback who loves to throw the deep ball.
So one thing you brought up real quick, Vince, was Skoronsky and some guys like that. Obviously, it seems like it was so long ago that the Bears were in this free agency pool for a tackle, right? And the one thing that I really admire about Ryan Poles and what he did over the offseason was he didn't overpay just to go get a name guy like Skoronsky or the guy from Orlando Brown Jr. He really stuck to his guns, and these are the numbers we're going to offer these guys. And if they don't accept it, we'll find another option. Clearly, that option was drafting Darnell Wright in the first round, which I'm okay with. I'm at peace with. I think they made the right decision there. I was a little bit shocked by the move to move back one spot at first and then go offensive
Don't
tackle.
bring that up again.
I know Vince was a little bit upset when that transpired as well, but with that being said, I'm excited to see what this offensive line can do, and I think if Fields comes out and throws for, let's say, 300 plus yards in week 1 against the Packers, win or loss, as long as he looks solid, I think that will start to change the narrative almost instantaneously. You know, before you jumped on, Lester, we talked about the fact that the Bears led the league in scoring for 6 weeks last season and didn't win a game during that stretch. It's remarkable. That's such a Chicago Bears-esque stat. Like, that has to be an NFL record. But ultimately, you know, I think a big thing with the narrative against Fields, those that say he's a runner and he's not a true quarterback, if we win those 6 games last year where we led the league in scoring and the Bears end up winning 9 games last season, I think that narrative completely disappears. So it's easy to pick on a guy when he's only won a handful of games throughout his first 2 years in the league, but it'll be really interesting to see what Justin Fields is capable of with a more competent line as well as a true number 1 option. And if it fails, we have 2 number 1 picks next year. Yeah. That's the silver lining in all of this, right?
Well, I mean, the offense took a while to gel last year. And then if you remember Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet, who were supposed to be 2 big parts of the passing game, they only had like 2 or 3 catches for the first few games. It took them a while to get going. They were kind of working into the new Luke Getsy scheme. They weren't really sure what they were going to be. And then once Luke Getsy realized, you know what, I got to really lean on Justin Fields' playmaking ability, the offense opened up a little bit. You know, then of course, then they made the trade for Claypool. Claypool got hurt. Mooney got hurt. You know, you had Dante Pettis, Equinemius St. Brown were your 2 guys out there. Byron Pringle, who they signed that they thought would be a big part of the offense, he was hurt. So
yeah,
a lot of injuries at the receiving core. Nothing was really able to gel. But the good thing is they're all healthy now for the most part. This is year 2 of the scheme, year 2 of the system. Justin Fields, you know, knows it, you know, way better than he did a year ago. So I think he's going to take a nice jump this season.
Continuing on with the offense, Chase Claypool has been a very hot topic this offseason and into camp. It's been reported that he's not progressing both physically and I would say mentally as far as learning the playbook at a rate as quickly as the Bears would like. And it really has to make you wonder if the Steelers maybe saw something in Claypool from that mental perspective, or really that's what I question the most. Where's his head at, and where is he at with learning this playbook? If your coaching staff is not giving good signs that Claypool's where he needs to be as far as progression, obviously there's some sort of disconnect there. So what, if anything, have you heard on the Chase Claypool situation, Lester? And what's your thoughts and feelings thus far with what's been reported on it?
Yeah, I mean, well, there was a report by Sylvie where one of his people inside the Bears mentioned that, you know, the team was unhappy with him. And you know, I'm sure there are some people in the locker room and in the coaching staff and in the front office that are unhappy with him. He has been injured. He hasn't been able to get out there and show what he can do. But, you know, before the injury, you know, you heard the coaches talk about him in a real nice fashion. You heard Justin Fields talk about him, you know, real nice as well. So there's some pluses, there's some minuses there. You know, when they originally held him out, they said it was more of a precaution. So maybe they just want to be really extra cautious because you don't want to have him get hurt in OTAs, have a soft tissue injury linger through training camp. So right, you know, he's in Paris now. He's doing the fashion show thing. You saw him on Twitter, you know, with the get up and stuff. Absolutely. So he is living life right now. He's enjoying himself on his time away from the field. So let's see what happens. You know, in July when things get turned up, if he's out there and he's practicing, it's all this narrative, the negative narrative should go away if he's out to practice and doing what he can do, because he is a very talented football player, big, strong, fast. The Steelers, they were tired of his act, you know, and he was pretty immature his last season in Pittsburgh, so you can see why they wanted to move him, and that's just not a Pittsburgh thing. You know, they had to get rid of him at that point. It was a great deal for them. Bears thought they were getting a pretty good deal. the jury's out. But even right now, you got to look at it and say he's got something to prove this year. But it's a contract year, so if he any time to prove it, this would be the year for Chase Claypool.
Absolutely. Otherwise, he may not get another opportunity, or he'll just be a depth piece on another team. So only time will tell how it transpires. Obviously, one would like to, from a fan perspective, see him succeed. And I guess that kind of poses the question as well. Do you see Chase Claypool as the number 2 option on this team, or is Mooney the number 2 option and Claypool's the number 3? I guess who's got to earn it more is ultimately my question.
I mean, they're both coming off injuries. The injury, obviously, to Mooney's a little more serious, but from what I understand, he is on track to be ready for training camp. The way I see it, I see it's going to be DJ Moore and Chase Claypool as your starters. I see Mooney coming off the bench as the slot guy, but, they're going to move these guys around the offense. They're going to look for mismatches because Claypool can play the slot, same with Moore, he can go into the slot as well. So they're going to try and find a mismatch. And, I know Moore will be the guy. He like I said, he's always been the alpha. He's been the top receiver every year he's been in the league. So he will be the Bears' number 1. And then as far as the next guy, it's going to be matchup, reliant. It depends on what's going on out there. I could see some weeks with Claypool getting more targets. Some weeks it's Mooney. Some weeks it's Cole Kmet too, because, he had a pretty nice year last year. And, kind of see how things go. But the fact that Moore is the number 1, it kind of sets the whole receiving core up. Because like I said, now Pettis ain't going to have any starts if he even makes the team. Equanimeous St. Brown, who is a nice depth piece, he has no business starting for this team. So everything kind of falls into place, and I think it all works out best for the Bears.
So before we move on to the defensive side of the ball, one last thing with the wide receivers. Tyler Scott, what have you liked that you've seen with him so far?
That was a nice pick. I mean, Jacob Infante, our lead draft analyst, he had a chance to interview him in the pre-draft process. That's kind of when I first got turned on to him, and I kind of started watching a little bit of his tape. And he's similar to Darnell Mooney in that he's a deep threat. He's really quick going down the seam. He has pretty good hands. He is a former running back in high school, so he runs after the catch well. He's another guy. He should be in the mix to get some reps here. So. Again, another weapon for Justin Fields and for this offense. They'll kind of work him in slowly, but that's good for a rookie. You don't want to force him to learn too much too quick, especially if you're going to have him learning a couple positions. It sounds like he may be doing the Z, maybe doing the slot as well. So kind of bring him along slowly, but with the way the core is set up now, you can't do that. And he will have a place on this team. He will make some impact plays this season for sure.
Well, I think that part, with DJ, like you said, with DJ Moore is the number 1, it allows everybody else to be a matchup, by the week. So many years we see these Bears teams where they have, Darnell Mooney out there or whoever it is, and you're like, okay, well, you have to go be the number 1. And some weeks they're able to do that. They play bad secondaries. They're able to find some soft spaces in zone and make some plays. You're like, oh, okay. But DJ Moore is a bona fide number 1 receiver. He's been it his whole career, like Lester said, with horrible quarterback play for most of his career. They used to say DeAndre Hopkins was quarterback proof. Well, DJ Moore for his career has been quarterback proof. Now he's with a guy that he likes to throw downfield. So you're going to have every week, DJ Moore is the number 1, and teams have to game plan for DJ Moore. That means the Bears can game plan to how to get Chase Claypool footballs because he's the flavor of the week, or Darnell Mooney has a better matchup, so now we're going to go with him, or the weeks that, we're going to go to the tight ends and we're going to see a lot of Cole Kmet and Tunyon and plays like that. Like, they're able to do that now, and all that happens because of DJ Moore. So not only is, a guy like Chase Claypool, who has shown the big playability when he was in Pittsburgh with Ben Roethlisberger, but now he doesn't have to be the number 1. It's not even a question who the number 1 is. Everybody knows, including the other team, that DJ Moore is the number 1 guy you have to stop. So it allows everybody else a little easier of a matchup. But now those guys have to go win. Those guys have to, if DJ Moore is getting double teamed, these guys have to win when they're one-on-one. And that's what Chase Claypool is. He's a big body receiver. He's fast. He can go get the football. But he's going to have to win when it's one-on-one coverage.
Yep.
So with that, Lester, let's go ahead and transition into defense, because there is a lot to talk about on the defensive side of the ball. Namely, to start off, I can't think of a better way than talking about Tyreek Stevenson. So we've got, should we buy into the hype here as a caption. everything you're hearing with Tyreek Stevenson is trending positive. I mean, it just sounds like this kid is going to come out and be an immediate impact player, right? And one questions how a very good secondary, is lucky enough to land a piece like this with obviously some big acquisitions last year that played well in their rookie campaigns, and then Eddie Jackson played more like old school Eddie Jackson last year. This secondary could be dangerous in my opinion, but what's your thoughts on Tyreek Stevenson so far and what you've seen?
Yeah, everything from Stevenson you hear is positive. I mean, he's running with the ones. He's starting outside corner opposite Jalen Johnson. That has Kyler Gordon, working out the slot, which is, again, probably where he fits best. But Stevenson has got good size. He has good length. He's physical. He does not shy away from stopping the run. He showed that in college. So, this is a guy that I think NFL.com just had one of their guys did their preseason predictions for all rookie team, and they have Stevenson making it as corner. So it's not just the Bears and Bears fans that are hyped on Stevenson's potential. It's league wide. I mean, people see what he is. Okay. He was a second round draft pick. I didn't do much looking at corners, in the pre-draft process because I didn't anticipate the Bears taking a guy there, but.
Right.
But as soon as the pick was made, I'm like, yeah, this is a guy, he's definitely has a really good resume, and he's gonna, he'll have struggle. Rookie corners struggle in the NFL. They all do. Right. It doesn't matter where you're drafted. So he'll have that. But the fact that he's coming into a pretty established secondary is going to help him a lot.
Vince, your thoughts on Tyreek Stevenson thus far?
Sorry, rookie over here talking with a muted mic. I think Lester hit on it best. It allows, Gordon to slide over to the slot where he's really where he should be. They had him, he was starting outside last year, and it's really not where he's best suited. Sometimes you see these teams and you see, especially fans more than teams, but you see them want to kind of pencil somebody in because they were drafted high. Well, they have to play outside. They have to do this. If a guy excels in the slot, I mean, that's such a hard thing to defend because most of the guys in the slot, they're the quicker, the more athletic guys. So if you've got a guy that excels there, you need somebody on the outside to help that. So now you've got Jalen Johnson, but you had that big hole on the other side. So you really were forcing Gordon to play there, and now you're weakening that spot and the slot when now you can just strengthen both with a guy like Stevenson. He's second round pick, big time program, big time player, athletic, confidence for days, all the things that you hope to have in an NFL corner. But I think Lester said it best. He's going to struggle. That's what they all do. Every player at times looks like maybe they're not ready yet. And then next thing you know, they pick you off and they're to the house with it. You're like, oh, damn, maybe he has arrived. I think he's going to be able to play. He's going to hold it down on the other side. And having a guy like Jalen Johnson will definitely help. Having guys like Eddie Jackson, Jaquan Brisker, all those moves that for a lot of fans were upset that the Bears made, they make moves like this possible because you've already checked those other boxes.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to see what this secondary can do. And I think week 1 will be a really good litmus test for this Bears organization, not only on offense, but looking at the defensive side of the ball. I mean, you're going to be playing Jordan Love in his first career start, tried and true starter this season, obviously, for the Green Bay Packers. So it'll be interesting. I feel like that game's going to set the tone for, that initial stretch of about 4 or 5 very winnable games, with the exception of Kansas City. I think obviously that's going to be a tough game for our Bears, but
just remember that when the Bears secondary gets burnt from time to time, if they don't have a pass rush, it won't matter how good they are in the secondary. You can't cover guys forever.
This is true. I think the linebackers are going to provide enough of a presence on the field, but that's neither here nor there. It's to be proven. I really hope we're not getting burned as bad as we were last year as far as the pass rush is concerned.
It definitely won't be as bad as it was last year. I mean, you can't fix everything in one offseason. They had too many holes to fix everything. They've made a lot of really good improvements. It just, is one of those things. You can't expect them to all of a sudden overnight become a top defense in the league.
But you did spend 2 draft picks on your defensive line as well. So I think we'll see. It's
I'm hoping that before now and the start of the season, they figure out a way to go trade for Chase Young.
He's so injury prone, though. I don't see that being a viable option because we'll get 4 or 5 games out of him and he'll be on the bench. But
I think for Young, I think if Young is dealt by Washington, I think they're going to wait till closer to the deadline just to kind of showcase him a little bit because, like I said, he did it coming off that serious injury. He didn't play much at all last year, so if they do want to move him, and it sounds like they do want to move him at some point because just they have so much money tied up in the front there, it'll probably be closer to the trade deadline. But yeah, the Bears, they're still lacking an edge rusher. I know they signed DeMarcus Walker, and if you follow him on Twitter and Instagram and stuff, he shows a lot of workout videos, and I'm excited to see what he can do. I mean, he hasn't really been in this scheme for a while. He's kind of been a 3-4 guy. He's kind of been up and down the line. He hasn't really had a chance to kind of settle in. And the Bears seem to have a role for him. He's going to probably start at defensive end, maybe kick inside on some passing situations. But he's a physical player. He's got pretty good quickness. And the one thing this team is lacking is a speed threat off the edge. But if Billings and the rookie Pickens and Dexter, if one of these guys kind of step up and kind of really man the middle and kind of push the pocket there, maybe a guy like Walker or a guy like Dominic Robinson, a second-year pro's got good speed. Maybe he can shine. Maybe Travis Gibson bounces back a little bit. So there's some talent there.
We've been waiting for that kid. We've been waiting for that kid to find his way into the backfield for about 3 years now.
Gibson,
yeah. He shows those flashes, and you're like, oh my god, the kid is gifted. Physically, he's fast, he's tall, he's long, and then he just has these periods where you're like, forget he's even in the game.
He needs more consistency. So maybe that's coming. Again, a lot of young players that they don't always develop at the same rate. He was pretty good a couple years ago. I think he had like 7 sacks, 7 forced fumbles, something like that. But again, it wasn't very consistent. He kind of did it in spurts. So maybe his best football is yet to come. We'll see what happens here. But I think there's some, like I said, some nice pieces on that D line. I do think they have talked about adding an edge all offseason. So I think at some point they may want to bring in, one more guy to kind of set that room.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see who that ends up being. Obviously, the Bears still have some money in their pocket that they can spend.
Before we move on, Lester, what do you think about a guy like Jadeveon Clowney?
Yeah, I mean, he's a good football player. He's a veteran, but I mean, he's 31, 32 now.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he gives them the speed off the edge. I mean, he's always been good against the run. He's been decent as a pass rusher, but I mean, if they got to spend the money somewhere. So if they get a 1-year flyer and a guy like Clowney kind of just add him to the room, kind of have a chance to really rotate those guys, maybe it helps, but we'll see. I like Justin Houston. I think he's still a free agent. He has a history with both Coach Flus and with GM Ryan Poles, so they obviously know him pretty well. But it'd be hard. I mean, the Bears are still coming off a 3-win season, so these vets, man, they don't want to join some rebuild. They want a ring, so I think they're going to kind of hold out as long as possible. If the market never develops for Houston, maybe he does come to Chicago. But I think right now the Bears are going to kind of be picking the scraps and waiting to see what happens when teams make their cutdowns.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Defense as a whole, Lester, before we let you go, give us your weak spot and your biggest strength for this defense this coming season.
Yeah, I think weak spot, I touched on it. It's defensive end just because they lack that legitimate speed rusher. DeMarcus Walker, I have high hopes for him. I mean, he's coming off a career best. I think he had 6-7 sacks last year with Tennessee. He has the potential there. He did a lot of his damage on the interior. The Bears really bolstered the interior, so I don't know how much they're going to really swing Walker in the inside there. But so I think having a legit speed guy off the edge. They also signed Rasheem Green, who has had a couple nice years bouncing around, but he's a journeyman kind of guy. He's not really a legit speed off the edge. So that's my main weakness. I think they'll address it at some point. And then strength, man, you touched on it too, man. The secondary, those guys are pretty good back there. We'll kind of see how they come together, but you can't overlook linebacker. I mean, they spent money at free agency with Edmonds and Edwards. They're only going to play two linebackers for at least 65 at least percent of the play. They're going to be a nickel so much. So those two linebackers will be on the field a lot. and they're both, they have Pro Bowl potential. With a guy like Edmonds, he's made the Pro Bowl a couple times. Edwards, he's been on the cusp. So I think right now you look at the linebacker core, that's a pretty strong unit.
I would agree. We actually were talking before you joined, and it seems, you look at this linebacker core, obviously you've got Jack Sanborn, who's going to be a decent depth piece. He's a good run stopper. You've got the addition of Sewell now to add some competition there. And then Edmonds and Edwards, you got both of those guys for less money than the Ravens gave Roquan Smith. So the Roquan Smith deal hurts a little bit less, knowing that you were able to get both Edmonds and Edwards in the offseason. So
yeah, I think it was just more of a scheme thing with Roquan. I think Roquan's a good football player, and you saw he made his first team All-Pro with Baltimore. He's a better scheme fit for the 3-4. That's just who he is. That's what he's done. So, I mean, it was the Bears realizing early they're not going to give him the money he's asking for. Let's make a move. And let's get a draft pick for him. And then, they had a hell of a backup plan, getting, two guys for about the same price. So I think the Bears are in a much better place than they were a season ago.
All right, Lester, before we let you go, win-loss prediction for this upcoming season. I'll throw you on the spot with this one.
Man, I feel like such a homer because I have been sticking with 10 wins here for the entire offseason. When the schedule came out, I kind of looked through it. I'm like, yeah, I can see 10. I mean, I can see more, I can see less, but I'm like, I'll stick with 10, and I kind of stuck with it. And I did another show about a month ago, and we did the same thing, a schedule breakdown. I went through it. Again, I came up with 10 again. I just keep going back to it. I mean, this is, of course, I'm expecting Justin Fields to take a jump. I'm expecting him to be a better passer. I'm expecting the offense to be a much better unit with DJ Moore. If the offense takes a jump and they stay relatively healthy, I can see 10 wins.
I like it. I'm right about there with you. That's actually Vince and I were talking, and I said 10 to 11 if everything goes really well. And I think really your floor is probably about 7 wins with this schedule. It's one of the easiest schedules for this upcoming season, so it definitely favors the Bears.
You get one of those when the bottom of the league every year.
Yeah.
Well, 2018 seems like so long ago, right?
7, yeah, if the Bears do get 7, though, that's a successful season. I mean, they're coming off a 3-win year. So I know our guy Bill Zimmerman made a prediction a while back on Twitter. He had him with 7, and he got tore up in the mentions, and it's like, that's a good jump. I mean, if your offense and your defense improves and you go from 3 wins to 7 wins and everything's trending upwards, that bodes well for the future for the franchise. So I'm sticking with 10, but if it's a little lower, I'm not going to be mad. I mean,
I will say this: if the Bears find a way to go out and win 10 games and they're winning the division, stuff like that, they're going to put themselves in a very prime position to add some key free agents next offseason. Yeah. They still have a lot of money. They're going to have a lot of money next offseason too. Some guys are going to come off the books that we're not going to keep, or they're going to play themselves out of a contract, whatever. And there's going to be some guys available like a Josh Allen in Jacksonville, or some of these edge rushers that can make a huge difference for this Bears team. That if you go out and you have a season like that where you win 10 games, it looks a whole lot better to those incoming free agents. Like Lester said, coming off a 3-win season, Justin Fields still has quite a few doubts. If you go out and win 10 games, it's a pretty safe bet that Justin Fields will be considered one of those top quarterbacks in the league. And so you have that top quarterback at a top team and on the upswing, it's a lot easier to bring these guys in than coming off 3 wins.
Yep. If you win 9 games, you're 3 times better than you were last season, guys.
Yeah.
So look at it that way, I guess. Lester, we appreciate your time as always. Thank you for joining us. Before we let you
go, you're the best, Lester.
Appreciate it, guys.
Let everyone know real quick where they can find you and follow you.
You can find me on Twitter at Wiltfong Jr. Of course, WindyCityGridiron.com. All the written stuff, our podcast channels there as well. Plus, our video stuff is now at Second City Gridiron as well.
Awesome,
okay, Lester. We appreciate it as always, and as the season progresses, I'm sure we'll get back together to talk some more football. So thanks for your time again, and we'll talk soon.
Anytime, fellas. Take it easy.
Thanks, Lester.
Take it easy. Lester Wiltfong Jr., everybody. Such a great football mind. Always
such a professional,
Always so generous with his time with us as well. So, over the years, we've had the pleasure to speak to him numerous times now. And
he's one of those guys, like you and I were talking before the show. He's one of those guys, like, not that I shouldn't say nobody, because we do get those certain people, but for the most part, it was pretty good. But he never is like, oh, I can only give you this, I can only give you that. He's like, whatever you guys need, whatever. He starts talking, and he just keeps running with it. And it's like he never is like, oh, never giving us the, coming up with my time. He just
absolutely. Lester and his whole team over there at Windy City Gridiron,
and they do such great work over there too.
Yes. If you are not following them, be sure to go give them a follow.
If you're not, you should be.
Between the podcasting and the articles that they put out, really well written. Got a phenomenal team over there. I cannot give Lester enough credit.
Yeah.
Him and his team, awesome, and we appreciate him jumping on with us as always.
Definitely.
Man, you heard it. You heard it from the man himself.
I heard him.
10 wins.
As soon as he said 10 wins, I was like, oh, man, I ain't never going to get Tarble to shut up about 10 wins now.
Hey, so I got some cred. I'm not the only one. Adam Rank was on the NFL Network and said 12 wins live on national television.
Yeah, but those dudes go on live TV and they just say crap to get people to be like, oh, did you hear what so-and-so said? Look, now we're talking about him all because he said 12 wins. He doesn't really think the Bears are going to win 12 games.
He does, because he's a Bears fan, and he's playing it
because he's a hometown guy, and he's like, oh, I'm just going to say the Bears are going to win because they're the Bears.
But ultimately, man, I mean, we went through pretty much piece by piece and dissected this team at each level over the course of this episode tonight. And, other than the defensive end position and getting a guy that can rush the passer there, this team is much more solid in every area compared to where we were at last year. And that's exactly what you wanted to see.
Well, I mean, you couldn't rush the quarterback last year either. So so they are better at defensive end than they were last year. They just were bad at it last year too.
Fair enough. No, I mean, obviously you would like to see an impact player there, right? But overall, you look at the moves that this team has made, and they're definitely trending in the right direction. So many times with Ryan Pace in the previous regime, there were some head-scratching moves that you just didn't understand.
Did you see he just got promoted?
Really? I did not.
Yeah, I saw it today. I forget what position, but he got promoted to even more
president of football operations.
Yeah, even more clout or say over things with Atlanta.
All he did was bring 10 former Bears players to Atlanta. Right. I don't understand. Your biggest victory was Cordero Patterson.
Right.
You already had him on one team, bro.
Right.
But
no, I mean, the Bears, at times they're going to look really, really good. At times they're going to look really, really bad. That's what a team that just coming off 3 wins is going to do. However, I do think they're going to add another piece before the season. I think it's going to be, and I respect Lester to the ends of the earth, it very well could be Justin Houston. I actually think it's going to be Unique Inakwe. I think the connection from the Colts and all that, I think he just fits too well. They have too much money that they can pretty much go out and get who they want. I think they're going to overpay, not necessarily overpay, but give somebody more than anybody else is willing to give at this point in time. It is this late into the offseason. I think they're going to be willing to spend that money where some teams aren't because they have the room to do it. And they'll get them on a 1-year deal, or they'll get somebody on a 1-year deal. But I just don't see them going into the season without addressing the edge a little more. And if you could get just a little bit of pressure from the line, these linebackers in this secondary is really gonna be able to carve out a spot for themselves in the top end of the league here. I mean, you're talking about if you can get consistent pressure on the quarterback, it doesn't have to be great pressure, but if they can get consistent pressure, I mean, you're talking about it easily a top 10, if not top 5 defense in the NFL. Right. And if you compare that with an offense that's definitely on the upswing, added a bunch of playmakers, improved the offensive line, Justin Fields gets another year in this system. Luke Getsy gets another year into calling plays. The Bears just really have a lot of things going for them.
And then, bam, the Bears win 10 games, right?
You could make an argument.
You never told me earlier. You alluded around it, but you never gave me a number. So, how many games do you think the Bears are going to win this season?
I'm gonna hold my number until after I see the final roster going into the regular season.
Don't tease me like that.
I
To
think
be continued.
let's put it this way: if the Bears, if the offense does, I hate to say it, but if they are who we think they are, I could see this team winning 8 to 10 games.
If they are who they thought we were.
You always got to bring it
Was
back.
that the late Danny?
The late Denny Green. That was the Devin
okay.
Hester game in Arizona.
It 2 touchdowns in like.
Yeah,
not even a
it
quarter,
was the
right?
Devin Hester Brian Urlacher game. Hester took over an punt returns, and Urlacher had like 12 tackles in the fourth quarter alone.
There was like 2 minutes left, and we were down by 2 scores, right?
Yeah, well, Hester brought one back. Urlacher got a pick. Then Mike Brown had the fumble recovery, scoop and score.
That's right.
And then after they are who we think they are. You want to crown them? Crown them.
one of the greatest presser quotes of all time.
Absolutely.
Well, with that being said, guys, we appreciate you joining us here tonight on Turtles Take. Make sure to go like, follow, and subscribe to the Undefeated Sports Network and Turtles Take on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. Go give Turtle some followers on Twitter, guys.
Yeah.
You got to beef up them numbers.
God knows I need them. I think I'm still in double digits.
So let's get you to trips. But be sure to go like, follow, and subscribe, guys, if you are not already doing so you don't miss any of the content and the guests that we are churning out here on the Undefeated Sports Network. We will be back with you next week. And this Thursday, we got a couple shows coming up. I believe we've got the wrestling show coming up.
Is it Thursday or tomorrow?
It's Thursday.
Okay, I believe you.
Thursday evening, we got our wrestling show.
You know me. I just show up when you guys tell me to show up.
Lots of good content churning out of the network.
What did Marshawn Lynch say? I'm just here so I won't get fined?
Practice? We're talking about practice.
No, that was Allen Iverson. But Marshawn Lynch, he said, I'm just here so I won't get fined. That's me. I'm just here so y'all don't find me.
Have you seen the new Chase Bank commercial with Allen Iverson?
I have not.
It's good. Go look it up after we get done with this.
What happens? Does he like rob the bank?
No, he's sitting up at the podium and they're talking about how Chase has no fees. So he's like, fees? Talking about fees.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
Came out good.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining us. We will see you again next week. I am Tarville. He is Turtle. Take it easy.
And go eat crumble cookies, especially in Algonquin.